Welcome to Good Business Pays TV, the podcast where you can learn everything you need to know about late and slow payment to small businesses. This is one of a series of interviews that we're doing in conjunction with Intuit QuickBooks, where we talk to small business owners that have some experience of late and slow payments. And today we are lucky to have with us Priyesh Pankhania. Welcome.
Cheers, Terry. Thanks for the intro.
So I know your business is called Prospective Media. I know that because we've talked before, but let's just start with the question of what's your story and how did you come to create this business, and tell us all about it.
Yeah, good question. I actually got into this when I was a kid. I always followed my granddad around with the camera. He always had a camera around, and that's how I kind of become acquainted with the camcorder initially, and then kind of lost that as I grew up. Tried a lot of different things after I graduated from uni, a couple of different businesses, and then kind of landed back into this space. So my background was in kind of like documentary filmmaking, and it started off as a passion project, and then it kind of led to a business. And as discussed before, there's like two arms of the business now. So there's the wedding sector, which is all B2C, and then there's the corporate side of things, which is obviously B2B. So it's been a journey. It's been a good journey.
And obviously, with two different bits of your business, there's the B2C bit and B2B. The role of cash and cash flow in your business will be quite interesting. Can you tell us a bit about how the cash flow business side of things works in your business, please?
Yeah. So generally, do you want me to kind of discuss the way that payments are made? Is that?
It's more about helping people understand the role of cash within your business and how that actually affects your business and also personal life.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously, to run the business, we need money. We need cash flow. There's always constantly in this industry as well. Like there's always like new pieces of equipment you need. There's specialized individuals you need for example, if there is a documentary that we're working on, that might need like a sound guy, that might need a lighting engineer, we'll need obviously a camera guy and a director. And so there's so many different elements to a particular shoot, especially with the business to business stuff. And that's only possible when there's good cash flow. Like we can have the top of the range equipment for a particular shoot, as an example. And with does that kind of answer the question? Does that?
Yeah, and presumably working with freelancers and having to put that team together, it means
Yeah,
that you have to shell out a lot of the money at the beginning and
correct.
you'll get paid sometime later.
Yeah, correct. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's a brilliant point actually. Yeah, because a lot of these guys will be freelancers. So and sometimes they'll want like a deposit up front and then maybe payment like straight after the job is complete. Or sometimes they might want the money up front. And that's always a bit of a negotiation because it always depends on cash flow altogether. So if we've got, let's say that we've got a job coming up and we've got 5 freelancers on board and they all need deposits up front, like that affects us massively. So if we're struggling to get paid from that particular client, where there's like sometimes it's like 30-day payment terms or 90-day payment terms, and sometimes even then they don't necessarily adhere to that. So you end up chasing, and then so you might have already shelled out X amount of money on a particular job to get these freelancers on board, hoping that you're going to get paid from this client pretty soon so you can pay the rest of them. That doesn't happen, so you end up shelling out from the reserve, I guess, to pay these guys, and then that has a knock-on effect personally, but obviously in the business it has a knock-on effect, but it has a knock-on effect personally because we are still a small business. We're not, we're not by any means a big business at all. So we use this money to pay our mortgages and, to put food on our table. So when we're having to shell out money that almost sometimes we don't necessarily have in the business, it can affect our personal lives. And that's a big stress in itself. And sometimes you're always like trying to play catch up, and like, you feel like you're doing everything right by the client and by by everyone. And yeah, so it's just you that ends up in a bit of a sticky situation sometimes. So yeah.
But you do make quite a lot of films for businesses, right? It hasn't put you off working for businesses and just concentrating on the wedding video side of the business?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I guess I've been kind of lucky because I did start, obviously, like I said, I started in the documentary side. I dabbled with corporate to begin with, but weddings, because it was like during peak COVID period, um, so, well, after the COVID period when things really opened up, people were just getting married, um, well, whenever they could get dates booked in. And because of that, we just had like last minute bookings constantly coming through. Um, Great because corporate was also kind of slow. It wasn't really taking off too much. Um, Wedding clients are brilliant because sometimes, most of the time, they're brilliant. They generally seem to pay better than or pay more on time than you would with a corporate client. I guess because there's no like 30-day payment terms and 90-day terms and all that stuff that you're having to adhere to, I guess. But with the wedding clients, the way it works is we'll get paid at least 50% upfront before the job is when the job is booked, and then we get paid the rest of the final 50% before the actual wedding day. So everything's already settled up. At that point, all it is we have to deliver the wedding video. So cash flow helps. It's a lot better with the wedding industry. It is a lot more intense, like the work and stuff as well. I wouldn't say one's more intense than the other, to be fair. I said that, but it's not true. They both come with their own challenges. I think with the money side with the wedding clients is I know that if I've got someone booked in, it's going to get paid, but even before the job's finished. So that helps a lot because we do have freelancers that come on, and the same applies where they have to be paid. The only difference is with the corporate side, obviously, budgets are a lot bigger, productions are a lot bigger, so there's more money to be made going B2B. And yeah, and because of that, obviously, like I mentioned previously, you do have freelancers to pay. There's a lot more equipment that comes with the corporate game as well. Like I said, lighting, different cameras, audio, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, that's when cash flow can become a little bit of a problem. It hasn't put me off completely because it just feels like it's almost become normal to have to chase, and it's not. When I had my daughter, someone always said to me, sometimes you have to pick your battles, with whether they're when she was like started sucking her thumb, and stuff like that. But she's good in other ways. And someone said to me, sometimes you just have to pick your battles. And I've kind of taken that into business as well. And it kind of feels a little bit wrong sometimes because it's like you should just be getting paid. But I guess that's just the way it's been.
So when you're taking on a new B2B client and you've had experience of late payment clearly before, how do you try and avoid it? What tips do you have for yourself and for others at the beginning of a contract to try and avoid that problem?
So when I first started out, I always thought it was dependent on like the rapport you had with the client. Sometimes that is just not the case because there's a much larger team. Like your point of contact for this particular job could be someone from marketing, but they don't necessarily have say over when the invoice gets paid. That's completely down to accounts, or I don't know, it needs to be signed off by X, Y, and Z. So to try and mitigate that, initially I thought it was having constant good rapport, but that necessarily doesn't work. We tried to put contracts in place where it's like when we first work with someone, it's like, okay, cool, we need 50% of the money up front. And actually luckily we do have the majority of our B2B are great clients and they pay pretty much on time, which is great. And they do I guess some of them aren't as some of the not so big corporate clients, maybe like smaller size businesses, they've got a smaller team, they're able to pay their invoices quicker. Maybe I don't know if that's what it is. but some of them adhere to the contract. But like, yep, cool, we'll pay 50% up front and 50% once the project's complete. And then others, you sometimes get a reply where it's like, sorry, that's not our policy. Our policy is 90-day terms or 30-day terms. And that's when it's like, okay, again, pick your battles. It's probably a great client to have on the portfolio. We just have to play the game, I guess.
It tends to be the bigger the client, the more the policies, the more the complicated way of working,
Yeah,
and the more you're likely to run into quite long payment rules and regulations.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the other hand, though, when you do have these clients that pay fast and on time, can you tell us a little bit about what difference it makes to your business in terms of you being able to grow and you do new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like we're always trying to expand into new markets and always trying to get new clients on board. And that's only possible like to have our marketing budget is small, relatively small. So it does rely on, like I said, money coming into the business. So if we want to put like ads out on Facebook or ads out on Instagram, that's only possible depending on the budget we can allocate that month. So if invoices aren't getting paid that month, there's no budget for paid advertising, which then in turn means there's no new clients for the next month. So that has a knock on. Such a small thing. Well, it seems like such a small thing, but it has such a massive knock-on effect, which is really difficult for a small business to try and manage. So, sorry, what was the initial question? I completely.
It was more about, when you actually get paid fast,
Paid fast.
what does it allow you to do that's, I don't know, different or better?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So yeah, with that, it allows us to obviously sometimes put bigger budgets or just be consistent with the paid ads that we put out to get new business in, to keep putting the ads out there. Also, another positive impact that it has, I think, is because you're not stressing about chasing payments and stuff, you're concentrating a lot more on the job and on the edit side and post-production and making sure that delivery of the project is of like such a high standard. And that in turn has a positive knock-on effect. Obviously, like you're going to hopefully get more work from that and better relationships with the clients and stuff like that. But as a small business, much more important than all of that is just the home life, like taking that pressure off, like, okay, cool, your bills are going to be paid this month. I can't even begin to explain how much stress that takes off. Just knowing that there's money in the business account, and you can pay for bills, you can pay for your business overheads as well, and not have to worry and dip into any savings to pay for your overheads. Or like we use a lot of software that costs a lot of money. I don't know if I'm allowed to name names of the software you use, but okay, so like Adobe as a perfect example, like I live on Adobe, and it's not a cheap piece of software. So monthly we pay, I think it's like, I want to say like £60 on Adobe software. And then we have obviously other third-party pieces that integrate into that we pay either an annual fee for, or licensing of music and all this stuff. So it's like it costs a lot of money on a monthly basis to maintain the business and keep the overheads paid off. So yeah, when the money's coming in and these clients are paying on time, it just relieves all that stress. It's like, cool, I don't have to worry this month about paying all this stuff off. I can concentrate on the job, and I can concentrate on delivering an excellent service, and then also concentrate on getting more business. So yeah, this obviously, yeah, definitely a really positive impact.
Yeah, you have a lot of in your line of business subscription costs and things that have to be paid every month, right? So but the money that comes in from clients doesn't necessarily come in every month. And also making a documentary film, it's quite an elongated process with the client sometimes as well, isn't it? So, you go into filming, but then you go into post-production as well, and you might go back a couple of times with the client to view, the rough version of what they see.
Correct.
And maintaining a good relationship with the client through the whole process, even though you're not being paid, must be quite tricky sometimes.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I guess sometimes like when I first started out, it was all about, it's on me. Like it comes down to me. It's my fault if things are taking a bit longer because maybe I've not been clear in setting certain boundaries or like adhering to contracts. Sometimes you're like, okay, the contract states that maybe there's 2 rounds of revision, but now you're on your third just because you want to keep the client happy and you want to do a good job, of course. You want to make sure that the client's happy. But yeah, if that happens a bit too much, obviously you start to you've already eaten into budget. So you've as soon as you've gone past the 2 rounds you always want to get stuff done on the first round as much as possible. And then obviously if things take a little bit longer and you go past like whatever stated in the contract, then you're already eating out of whatever bit of profit that you should have. And yeah, sometimes that can be an elongated process. And you do get other times where you start like pre-production, you're talking to the client. That can take a lot of time. Like you could be talking for hours, just getting, even before you've had a contract signed. And so there's all this time that's not really accounted for sometimes, just to get the client on board. And sometimes that can end in the client maybe, you know what, we probably pick this up later on in Q4 and we're in Q1 currently. But you've already used up all this time currently, which is a big problem. To mitigate that, we do try and try and reduce obviously the time we spend in before pre-production and try and get the client on board. And then, that's kind of part of when it comes to like strategy building and all that stuff, that should be accounted for in the quote. Obviously, sometimes it's not the case. It's just, again, we're a small business, so it's we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, there's a lot of business development time in the B2B side, I should imagine, and with the wedding side, probably quite a lot in post-production where aunties and uncles and friends aren't in the video that they wanted to see them in a certain way. So it's a complicated set of things you're juggling with, I can imagine.
Correct. Yeah, of course. Yeah, especially your weddings as well. Yeah, when there's a lot of changes. Oh, we haven't seen this, we haven't seen that. There can be a lot of back and forth and a lot of time. And obviously in this game, especially the wedding stuff, like time. Well,
yeah,
time is money. So yeah.
So we at Good Business Pays, we're trying to campaign on behalf of small businesses to try and bring an end to what we call just bad behavior actually in payment culture, because we think, the way that you pay your suppliers or your builder, if you're having some housework done, is up to you. And it's the same in business, really. It might be a bit more complicated with different departments, but you decide how quickly you're going to pay. If we're to get rid of or to totally reduce this long payment behavior that we've got over many years, do you have a view on what needs to change and how at all?
I think I appreciate that there has to be some payment terms sometimes there's just a process. I just don't think it needs to be like 90-day payment terms, like 30-day payment terms. I can deal with as a business. We can deal with. We can plan for that. But when it's any longer than 30 days, I think it's kind of taking the mick a little bit, and it's really hard for a small business to keep growing and thrive. To be honest, like ideally, we want to be at a point where we're not having to worry about invoices being paid. We've got money coming in, and we can take on full-time staff. That would be the ideal situation to be in. But we can't get there. We can't get there because we're always fighting a battle of, okay, when's the next invoice going to be paid, or when can we get some more business through? Because and I think that would, if we could kind of reduce the payment terms significantly, then that would help us at least plan a little bit better for the coming months. So yeah, I wouldn't say like if we could get rid of payment terms altogether and you get paid straight after the job is complete, that would be ideal. But obviously, I understand that's never going to be the case, and there has to be some sort of payment terms because it's just the way big businesses work. And I understand there's a process in place, but just reducing that would help drastically for sure.
Yeah, because if you've got to pay a monthly salary, national insurance, tax for an employee, you've
Exactly.
got to have that certainty that money's coming through so that you can pay them and pay
Yeah.
your taxes, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, like touch wood, like I'm very, very, very blessed that the freelancers that we work very, very closely with, they're in the same boat. So they're very understanding. However, there has been situations where I've freelanced and um, my my friend's client has taken nearly 4 months to pay, 4 or 5 months actually was to pay the invoice. And I can see where there'd be situations where that could have an impact on a working relationship because, okay, I understand your situation, but I also need to get paid. Like it's been 4 or 5 months now. Um, is it fair for me to put pressure on to my friend to pay the invoice? It's one of those ones. There's a level of understanding, but also it doesn't make it right either. And we might have freelancers on board that um, I don't know so as well. We might have a good working relationship, but they're not like maybe not be personal friends of mine, but they're not going to necessarily be like, yeah, don't worry, we'll wait till invoices get paid. They're going to want to be paid straight away. And I appreciate it, I understand that. And that's, yeah. So it's balancing that, I guess. It's a difficult one.
And we're working with Intuit QuickBooks on these series of discussions. How do you find the role of tools like QuickBooks to help you in your business and with the cash flow situation? Does it help?
Yeah, massively. When I first started out in the business, I was using spreadsheets just to um, keep track of invoicing and the money coming in, money coming out. And at the time, I thought, yeah, there's nothing that can be better than my spreadsheets because I also used to be like a bit of a data analyst. I was a data analyst in my past life. So I thought, yeah, my spreadsheets are the best thing. And then as you get more business coming through and you're doing the marketing now, you're doing the sales, you're doing the videoing itself, that there's all these different elements of the business that you're working on. A piece of software just takes off a lot of stress because there was QuickBooks took off a lot of stress because I was on these jobs, especially during the COVID period, back to back days where I'm on site with a wedding shoot back to back, and there's invoices that I have to raise invoice straight away, especially when I was freelancing as well. Um, when you're back to back, I was going home and I was missing invoices and putting them into my spreadsheet and stuff. But QuickBooks took that kind of all away because I'd be on this on site and I can just go onto my phone, type it in onto my phone and just send that invoice straight away. Um, that's when I realized, okay, cool. QuickBooks is going to be very beneficial to the business. And as we've grown, it's become integral. Like I check it regularly, every other day at least. Seeing if invoices have been paid, checking off different transactions, making sure it's all matching, and the whole, yeah, basically making sure the cash flow is okay as well. So it's integral to the business for sure.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'll let you get back to filming. It's a fascinating business, and I admire your resilience in being able to manage two very different types of business like that together. So, Pri, thank you very much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.